In my last video, I talked about some of the best ways to manage stress. But what if you are in extreme stress? Or what if you're past that and you're already burned out? Today, I'm going to help you figure out whether you're already burned out, what you can do to recover from it, and how you can prevent it from ever happening again. Hi, I'm Jess of JessDickerson.com, and I'm a life coach helping you go from stress to success by giving you the tools to be more confident, more motivated, and less stressed. If you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, please go down and hit the subscribe button below. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what burnout is and know what you can do to recover from it. I have firsthand experience with all of these symptoms, and these are some of the tips that I use to help me recover from it. I went through a long series of events, many of which I did not cope too well with, and eventually landed myself in burnout. It took me about a year of not functioning before I had had enough and I had to do something. Basically, I was barely functioning and I was sick of feeling miserable all the time. I spent about 18 months working on my physical, emotional, and mental well-being before I finally felt healthy and well again. This is not a situation that I want any of you in, but no one is immune to a burnout. If you go around giving out more than you have physically, mentally, emotionally, without replenishing your resources afterwards, you're going to land yourself in burnout. So, what does it feel like to be in burnout? Well, the first major sign is having no interest in doing anything. Not watching your favorite TV show, not playing your favorite sport, not participating in your favorite hobby. Nothing. None of it. In fact, if you took a moment to look at your life, you might think, who the hell am I anymore? Why don't I want to do any of the things that I used to love? Well, one of the reasons might be because you're burned out. Often, though, burnout starts in one area of your life, and if it goes untreated, then it spreads out from there. A good example of this is something like work. Maybe it starts with a few days a week, you just don't feel like going to work. And then you start to realize that every minute that you're there, you hate it and you're miserable. And then maybe after that, you go home and you realize you're so tired and miserable and grouchy from work, you don't even want to do anything when you get home either. The stress from one area of your life has started to take over and eat away at the rest of your life. And if it goes untreated and you don't take care of yourself, the stress is going to take over everything. The way you feel is a really big clue to how you're handling the stress. If you say to yourself, oh, this is really hard, but I can do it, then you're probably handling the stress okay. But if instead you feel used up, or you can't think, or you're quick to anger or sadness, you might not be handling the stress that well. And as a quick side note, these emotions can actually lower your immune system. So if you notice that you start getting sick more than usual because you've been miserable and stressed out, then that's another huge warning sign as well. Now, you can dip in and out of this situation. A lot of people teeter on the edge of burnout pretty frequently, and that looks like with the work situation, maybe you go to work for 5 days and you're miserable and you hate it, and all you do is look forward to the weekend. But then when the weekend comes, you manage to burn off enough stress that you're able to make it through the next week. Or some people live for the vacation time. Maybe you go through 6 months and you're about to lose your mind, but then you get a week off and you're kind of better again when you come back. Or if you're a parent, maybe your kid finally gets through teething and you can start sleeping again. Or maybe your little one goes to school and you finally get a few hours to yourself. Either way, if you find yourself emotionally exhausted, totally used up, and living for the weekend or for your vacation, you might not yet be burned out, but you're headed in that direction and you need to learn some coping techniques so that you don't fall off that cliff. If you're emotionally exhausted, then you might be using our next warning sign, which is detachment. Detachment is a defense mechanism, and it's a way of separating yourself from the world. It's sort of like daydreaming, except it's not something that you can just snap out of. Detachment can feel like you're a robot, or maybe that you're in a dream and you're watching yourself go through the motions of life, but you're not actually participating in any of them. This can show up as alienating all of those people around you that are close to you, or being totally cynical about everything. It can feel like the world is on the other side of a pane of glass. What I experienced it like was a fog. I felt like everyone around me was going on with their lives, but I had this wet blanket on my brain. I couldn't think and I had no energy and I just couldn't participate in life. I was just there. The last big symptom I'm going to talk about is reduced performance. Many type A people have gotten themselves into burnout, which is totally how I got there. I genuinely thought that I could just keep adding things to my plate and that I would figure out a way to make it work. I love me some Tim Gunn, but there comes a point in this situation where you physically just cannot do anymore. When you get to this point, that's when you start dropping some of those balls that you've been juggling. And the harder you try, the worse it gets. And eventually what happens is that you end up pretty much dropping all of the balls and you don't have the energy or even care to pick them back up. This can also look like not living up to your usual standards, which can then reduce your feelings of belief in yourself. You stop believing that you're even capable of doing the things that you used to do. It can also lead to a lower desire to do a lot of the work, which can then appear to others that you're being lazy or uncooperative, which might cause them to help you less at a time when you desperately need more help. If you're identifying with any of this, then it's time to dig into the ways that you can help yourself. Even if it's only one symptom and it's maybe not all of the time, that is not a good place to be in. In order to save yourself from burnout, then you need to figure out a way to handle your stress more effectively. I'm here to tell you that it is much easier to handle your stress before you end up in burnout than it is to try to recover from it. I am living proof that you can recover from it, and I'm here to tell you I never want to go down that road again. The first thing you want to do is to avoid further depleting yourself. You probably have a good idea of what's draining your energy and making you feel so stressed. Maybe you thought that that one last thing you put on your plate wasn't going to push you over, but it did. However, if the reason that you landed in burnout, for example, is because you're so busy, then just taking one thing or a couple things off your plate randomly is not actually going to be effective. The goal is not just to get you from living on the edge of burnout, but to get you into an actual sustainable way of living so that you're constantly able to juggle and handle the stress that you have, and you're never worried about actually just one day it's going to happen and you're going to snap. Take a look at all of the things that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Even write them all out on a piece of paper and note which of the things give you energy and which of the things take energy away from you or stress you out. And then do whatever you can to get rid of as many of those draining activities as you can. Once you've crossed as many things that are sucking the life out of you off of your list, hopefully that will be giving you more time and you can move on to the next step, which is to replenish your lost resources. Like I said earlier, the reason that you get into burnout is because you're giving more than you're filling your tank back up, and eventually you're just going to run out of gas. Replenishing your resources is a very personal task, and it has a lot to do with the things that fill you up and really about how long you've been in this place of living on the edge of burnout. Basically, what you need to do is take as much time away from the things that are stressing you out and do as much self-care and resting as you can. However, like I said, the amount of rest and care that you need is proportionate to how long you were in this place of misery. If maybe you were working on a launch for a product and it was the last 2 weeks, maybe a 3-day weekend will be enough. However, if you have gone years like this and maybe never even had a vacation, then a week in the Bahamas probably isn't going to be enough to bring you back from the edge. The third step is once you have gotten rid of some of the things that make you miserable and you've learned to make self-care a habit and you're reducing your stress and you feel more rested, then you can start putting things back on your calendar, but only the things that energize you. Don't say, well, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I guess I got to start taking things back on at work, or I've got to start doing more things at my kids' school. Nope. That is not how this works. That is a very slippery slope, and it will land you right back where you started very quickly. Let me tell you how I know. Because this is exactly why it took me so long to recover. I was basically recovered in, say, about 6 months physically from the burnout. But then I would have a good day and I would decide to do too many of the wrong activities and get myself overwhelmed and slide right back into misery again. And I did this over and over and over until I realized that I had to change the way I operated before I was ever really going to get out of it. If you're struggling with burnout, you probably have some tendencies that get you in trouble. Maybe you're a people pleaser, or you're a workaholic, or you have trouble saying no. Figuring out the behaviors that you have that got you into burnout in the first place and changing those is the actual path to real lasting change. In fact, this is exactly what I cover in my Stress to Success program. We go through all of the areas of your life that you tend to have problems in that lead you down the road of stress and burnout, and we examine them and we figure out how you can change your behaviors for the better. If this sounds like something you're interested in, go down to the description and I'll have a link to the page where you can see all of the things that we cover and also book your free call with me. However you decide to manage your stress, just go out and do something positive for yourself. Stress doesn't just go away. We have to actively manage it and take care of ourselves. That is the only way that you're going to right your path and get back to health and well-being. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead down and hit the like button. And if you want more content like this, hit the subscribe button as well. If you're interested in more information about stress and burnout, go ahead down to the description and I'll have some links to articles that I've written, including one that tells the story about all of the stuff that I went through before I got into burnout and what it felt like for me. I'll also have a link down there so you can sign up for my newsletter so that you can get more awesome content just like this delivered straight to your inbox. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.